Welcome to your Brilliant Legacy show. I am Michele Parad, and I'm so excited to explore this topic with you. So, what I really want to discuss today is some of the more nuanced definitions of legacy, because oftentimes we may associate legacy with wealth building, which has its place for sure, with intergenerational passing down of assets. That's typically what we think about, or a tall building that someone has built and has its name and plaque on it. So all of those things potentially are valid, but there's also many nuanced ways that we can leave a legacy. And I bet that if you are here listening to this right now, that you've already done many things in your lifetime that have contributed to your legacy. So let's unpack that. I want to draw upon the beautiful story of an archetype that I love to think about, which is Merlin. And I don't know if you've ever seen the TV series about Merlin, but it depicts him when he's a younger version. And really, you don't know on the outside that he's actually a wizard. So he's doing all these things behind the scenes that is actually changing history and allowing for changes in conflict that arise. He does quite a lot of work for King Arthur behind the scenes. And none of that brilliant mastermind work that he does gets acknowledged in the world. And so I want to call upon us all to think about sometimes the work that we do may not necessarily be recognized in this lifetime, although it could be. But we know many artists that were like starving artists during the time that they were doing their magnificent work. And it was only centuries later that we realized the impact of it, or we came to a certain level of consciousness that allowed us all to appreciate his work or her work. And so sometimes legacy can be appreciated, acknowledged in our lifetime. Sometimes it's actually many centuries later or many generations later where the rewards are reaped. Okay. And so I'd like to discuss a couple of different examples where really we're leaving an invisible legacy and that we can really be proud of, and that we do get rewarded in the spiritual realm around. And one of those is actually working on our belief systems and breaking generational curses, traumas, ways of thinking, ways of operating. And if that is something that you are constantly working on, for example, maybe you do become the first millionaire in your family, and it's because you have changed your perception of how you make money, potentially that there is abundance all around, and it's possible for you to make money doing the things that you love. So there's a lot of potential ways in which we, as the next generation, can do things differently, can think differently, that really changes and revolutionizes not only your life, but future generations that also will adapt essentially a new mindset thanks to you. And it may have a ripple effect on the people close to you as they see you moving into a new way of being. So that's just one example of where, yes, the success and the money is maybe an outward piece of the legacy that gets visible, But the true gem in what you're doing is what people don't see, which is the behind the scenes work that you do on yourself to change your thoughts, your actions, and the way you are in the world. And again, maybe you talk about it, but maybe you don't. Maybe it's just something you're working on healing yourself. And not everything in your legacy gets exposed or shared widely, because sometimes it's really just between you and you where it gets shared. And other examples are, I know many healers that do what's called grid work, what's called collective meditations to raise the vibration of the earth. And again, meditations are not something that are visible to the eye as far as how the impact goes, but we know that there are studies that show that when we meditate, the actual electrics of the earth changes too. There is a correlation and there is an impact that we can have on putting out good thoughts, prayers into the collective field, and that actually can generate some change in circumstances. So again, these are things that are very nuanced, very subtle. Do we know that a conflict was affected by a healer that was across the world? We can't really say for sure, but maybe on some kind of other realm, this did happen. So that's another example of where you could be doing amazing contributions to the earth that may or may not get recognized, and it may or may not be something that even you recognize the impact of what you're doing, but you do it anyway because it's your calling. It feels like it's the right thing to be doing at a certain moment in time, and potentially you have the faith that it is creating a ripple effect, whether or not you see that generated in the world. Sometimes our legacy could be literally meeting one person in your life that you change their perspective and you change the course of their life. You tell them some gem about themselves, or you give them a particular idea that then they then take into the world and affect millions and billions of people's lives through a business they created or a movement they created. So your legacy could be the destiny of meeting and impacting one single person. So it doesn't have to necessarily be something super grandiose from an outside perspective. And it's probably many micro things that you're doing that is building up goodwill and ultimately snowballing into what you want to call your legacy. Many of you are probably working on a body of work. That's a type of legacy, I would say, as well. If you are an author, a speaker, or somebody who is just bringing new concepts into the world or new ways of thinking into the world, that is certainly another type of legacy that we can think about. And sometimes it gets realized in this lifetime, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's a snowball effect. And I have to say that sometimes, especially if you're very forward thinking, there are some people who they see a system, they see inventions well before the market is able to comprehend it. And I do see time and again where technologists or innovators put out their work too soon into the marketplace, when people are not fully ready to receive that information or those concepts. And timing of the collective and their readiness to understand your particular thought process is a very big part of when your legacy does get unfolded. But regardless, your ability to understand it and convey it has a lot of significance and meaning to it as well. And I want to also point out there are specific karmic debt that we have, each of us has ultimately when we get here. If you believe in reincarnation, that's part of why we continue to rebirth into this plane of existence, is to resolve potentially things that we consciously or unconsciously created in past lifetimes that we still need to work on. And we don't always know what those are. We learn what it is along the way. But I do think that in certain circumstances, when we are transmuting our karma, when we are working through that challenge, through that pain, when we are on the other side of we afflict somebody and then we get that same kind of treatment that we did upon to others, then there's key realizations that come into effect, and that pain gets transferred into purpose. So I do think that karma sometimes has a really big part to play in the legacy that we're here to build. For example, I'm part of an astrological group of people who potentially, and I just learned this actually, a friend of mine looked at my chart and mentioned that in my particular year, the emphasis is on moving away from serving other organizations and really moving their ideas and their concepts forward to building a personal brand. And there are benefits to both, but sometimes there is a karmic link. And I've certainly discovered that in my work sometimes in working with others, that has shaped my understanding of needing to share my own brilliance and not just helping others share theirs, and finding that beautiful balance between the two is potentially something that you can be grasping with. And that comes from a lifetime of serving others and being in relationship with others, and potentially the conflict that arises or the lessons that are learned from those experiences. So sometimes there's also not just karmic debt, but we sometimes get gifted amazing talents that are really, you can't really explain where they came from other than God magically gifted them to you at a certain point in time. And we've heard of, for example, something called the savant syndrome, where it's known that people have gone through car crashes or specific traumas in their life where maybe they become totally unconscious, or there's some kind of spiritual trauma that happens that triggers a new talent. And suddenly they wake up and they can recite a song that they never knew before, or they become a violinist and they never had violin training. Some crazy miracles like that happen. How does that even get explained? It's really just something that is given, I think, as a miracle, and potentially it is something that we learned in past lifetimes. We're just somehow suddenly remembering who we are and what talents we've really earned, I would say. And I believe that we are given those so that we can fulfill sometimes a legacy as well. And if we don't fulfill the legacy, we build karma, and then we go into the next lifetime getting the gifts again and trying to learn how to bring them into the world. So I can't say it's a curse, it's a gift and a curse, because sometimes you're given an amazing talent and ability, and you have a responsibility as well to utilize that, because it was given to you for a specific reason. Sometimes that is to solve a specific problem. Sometimes you're destined to help people in a certain way. And if we ignore those things about ourselves, inevitably it turns into disease. Inevitably it turns into depression, and so on and so forth. And the best thing possible is to accept and go deep within ourselves to uncover these rather than hide them, rather than subdue them. Because sometimes our talents can be taboo, especially if it's in the psychic realm, which I like to talk about. And it may not be necessarily collectively understood yet. And yet we have to go out and use them anyway in the best possible way that we can. And it takes tremendous courage to, first of all, understand what those talents even are, and take enough of a pause to do that self-discovery work, and then to figure out what we can do with them. It's just a lot of courage and a lot of warrior type of energy to be able to uncover the path forward, because there's no blueprint that's really given to us when we're born. We have to pick up one clue at a time. And so the best thing that you can do for understanding your legacy is doing internal work, finding any and all tools that will help you with uncovering more of your abilities. Because I can assure you that we're all still discovering ourselves. There's still more and more depths to ourselves that we don't know, because we collectively have subdued many of our talents just over a time period of behaviors and needing to fit in to a specific structure and all of those things, or a specific circle of people, needing to be accepted, needing to be in community. All of those things can sometimes take away from our individuality. The best legacy you could possibly, I believe, give to the world is to uncover your gifts and to really share them and voice them. And even if that means with one other person or two other people, it's not necessarily to a wide audience, but without doing that process, essentially we're dead inside ultimately. So I'm hoping that these are all giving you some food for thought, and I'd love for you to start thinking through potentially already the things that you have done to build a legacy under the themes that I've discussed. So intergenerational belief systems that you have changed, karmic debts that you have paid off, potentially collective things that you have uncovered, small acts, small moments that you have changed someone's perspective, or anything that you have really done that could be still invisible, still under the radar to other people. But it's really important to start to take note of that so that you can do more of it, so that you can acknowledge it at least for yourself and how much you've already done for the world, for yourself, for the people around you. And that legacy doesn't have to be necessarily that outwardly praise that we all want to have, but it really is an intrinsic journey. Yes, it's always rewarded, I believe, in one way or the other. And I would also like you to reflect on what you still have yet to potentially accomplish, what you still have yet to uncover about yourself. So thinking through some of those themes and thinking through some of your life experiences and what you've already overcome, and writing those things down and integrating them for yourself, because oftentimes many of those things leave lasting clues about what is coming next for you. And in that reflection can come some hidden gems as well. So think through those things. And I also invite you to do a short meditation with me to help unlock more of your legacy and to uncover what a deeper layer of that is, because I do believe it's like a cycle that happens, like a death and rebirth cycle, but a legacy cycle can just build on top of each other. When we talk about intergenerational things, your legacy, then your children can build upon that and further that goal that you left for them, if that is the case. Or there are other people that can build upon your legacy, or you then return in next lifetimes and build upon it even further with more accumulation of knowledge and wisdom and understanding, builds upon an evolution of your legacy. So it's an everlasting process, but I believe a worthy one. So just take a minute to center yourself. Take a deep breath and close your eyes. And imagine that you are in a beautiful ball of light. And imagine that there is light running from the center of the earth, and it's coming up through your legs, and it's circling around your arms, and it's coming out through your arms. And then simultaneously, there's light coming from above, and it's coming through your crown, it's moving through your body, and it's mixing with the light from the ground. And so you're just circling light from above and from below to move around all parts of your body. And now you're just going to imagine a brighter and brighter light that is moving through your body. It's expanding. And now you are merging with the chair that you're sitting on. And now this light that you are in is merging with the room that you're in. And it's expanding into the house that you're in. And then the city that you live in. And then the country that you live in. And then the whole world. And it's expanding past the world into the star systems and the entire galaxy. And it's moving through different planes of existence until you reach a bright white light. And in this moment, you are going to request to get some new insights into what your next step of your legacy is. Think about what symbols, what objects, what animals, what archetypes, what sounds, what textures come to mind. Don't overthink what is coming through for you as far as insights, but just take note of the things that are coming in. And then you're going to ask yourself, what is one obstacle to my next step in my legacy? What do I need to learn to uncover that next phase for myself? What is a belief that I need to change? What is a behavior I need to look at? What is a relationship I might need to let go of? What is potentially an environment I need to move to in order to fulfill that next step? So I invite you to continue to think through this. You can open your eyes if you're ready. You can continue this exercise if you're not. And just spend a few minutes writing down things that you received. And I'd love to hear from you as far as what insights you got. And I'm always here to share in community about our collective journeys. So don't hesitate to reach out. And I have also a physical digital community that I invite all of you to partake in. It's called the Multidimensional Leaders. And information is going to be in the show notes about how to join. And it's really an amazing group of people who are on the journey of self-actualization, who want to build legacies in the best possible way. And it's a journey that we need to share with each other. And it's a difficult one to go alone. And that's why I love gathering people together intentionally to share our collective insights so that we may further impact each other and share our gifts with each other. So I invite you to join me, and I can't wait to see you in the next episode.